Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty interesting news going on as of today when it does come with, first and foremost, the PlayStation Showcase, which you guys may or may not have had a chance to go and see as of today. That did go and happen. I will go and give you my first initial thoughts and, I guess, comments on this throughout the video. It turned out okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst. Could have been better. Could have been worse. But I think a lot of folks are actually somewhat upset. And I think a lot of people are just kind of spamming a lot of L's and just kind of assuming Sony didn't really do that good of a good job. So we're going to go talk about the announcements. There actually was a brand new handheld with the brand new Sony Q. We're going to talk about this, talk about the games, and as well as kind of give the overall, I guess, feedback and thoughts and everything all throughout the day. So this did happen like a few hours ago or so. I did also have a chance to upload the Spider-Man gameplay if you guys want to check that out on the channel itself, which probably was the biggest highlight. And, well, we'll talk about it. It could have been a little bit better. So make sure you guys are subscribed, notifications on Twitter and Twitch and down below if you guys want to follow. And, of course, let me know what you guys thought about the brand new PlayStation event. Let's dive on into it. So as you guys do or do not know, we do see the occasional things like a state of play or general gaming events that happen every now and then. And so far, it kind of seems like the overall community reception was a little bit on the more mediocre side. Now, I think if I had to go and say, I'd probably give it maybe like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. There was a few games I was kind of partially interested in, although we were covering a lot of the leaks and rumors on the channel itself, so we kind of knew what was coming on. And, well, there wasn't really anything super groundbreaking or super huge that I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy this is about to come out, or I just can't wait to go and play this, or whatever it might go and be. And it's been kind of a little bit of a sadder note because, well, there just was a lot of lackluster news. So if you kind of go through a lot of the opinions over here where people are like, hey, I was promised balls would be blown off, nuts launch into space, orbiting the Earth. Never again will we ever have put our precious jewels in danger for a PlayStation Showcase event. Never again. And as well, we saw some other folks too, just from general vibes, saying, hey, here's like the PlayStation Showcase. It was a grade D from a Shinobi perspective. While games like Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, and Dragon's Dogma 2 look great, and I'm excited for Metal Gear Solid 3, we still have no real picture of the PlayStation first-party studio's future lineup. CG trailers don't sell me on anything. PS5 is obviously doing extremely well, and Sony has nothing to worry about, but after almost 2-year hiatus since the last PlayStation Showcase, expectations were riding very high. With over 20 first-party studios, their lack of presence felt as wide as the Grand Canyon. So we're trying to go break down something really quick over here too. So as you guys do know, the kind of the bigger highlights, and we'll talk about in a second, have mainly been in regards to, well, some of the games. Number one is probably on Marathon. I'm going to just play some of these in the background from the showcase over here, where basically Marathon itself was cool. Like, it's a cool game. It's like just mainly, I don't know a good way to explain it. It's basically a Bungie game. We do know that Bungie's been working on other various games too as well, and this is actually based on a very old school game that was a Doom-styled game. This is one of the rare kind of big announcements that I think is kind of cool. Like, don't forget Bungie is a PlayStation studio, and, well, people are kind of hyping up. Like, I think even right now there's like this huge kind of cool trailer thing going on where they're trying to figure out the game, etc., and like a big launch event. They send out press things, like a puzzle thing. Like, it's kind of cool. We like the idea of it. But as of right this second, there wasn't a lot really to go and show. The highlights were Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, which we covered up on the channel a decent bit, which is cool, but as well, I think a lot of these also might be coming to Xbox. Same thing, too, as well as they kind of mentioned for the fact that there wasn't really that many first-party games. The first-party games are kind of a big deal. Like, we have so many big things, you know, from Naughty Dog to Insomniac, where we kind of just want to see maybe a little bit more. Because that is true. Like, a big statement is, we don't really know what's going on throughout the next, let's say, 2 years of the game. I kept on thinking about hearing more of the Wolverine game. Barely heard anything about it. We're trying to hear maybe anything from, like, say, like The Last of Us multiplayer. Didn't hear anything about that at all either. And it just kind of seems like a lot of things are more on the skeptical side. When I first saw this Marathon game too, it kind of gave me a lot of just Destiny vibes, regardless, based on like the actual stylistic on it. Apparently it's like an extraction shooter based type game too as well. So like, we saw some kind of cool nifty things, which is why I wouldn't give it like an absolute very low score. There's also a big Destiny thing too as well, some Street Fighter stuff. But really the biggest highlights were kind of just Metal Gear Solid. I do really think Metal Gear Solid is probably one of the cooler trailers out there too as well when it came to fighting and people finding stuff and just kind of the overall just Konami type of way. I guess if you can go and call it that way, even though it's more Kojima. But like I said, the big things. We saw the Spider-Man 2 gameplay. That was very good, looked very clean, but we still don't even have a release date on it, which I think people are upset about because we want to just know like the rough timeline of what we're expecting. But look good. Like, we saw like 10 minutes of gameplay. The gameplay was all around looking good. The game looked vibey. The graphics looked great, and everything else in between was a very good thumbs up. And as well, We also did go and see the news too, as we mentioned, when it comes to Metal Gear Solid, as we're watching right now. Although this also may be coming out on Xbox too, which is a bit on the sadder side. But this also looks like a pretty big thumbs up. Game looks great, can't wait to play this. Although, as I was mentioning throughout these past few days, I kind of wish that Konami would have went a little bit bigger, maybe from Silent Hill games, etc., etc. We also saw Assassin's Creed going and getting mentioned, although that's been also showcased and highlighted on its own individual showcases before already, which once again is, well, cool, but it's not a big PlayStation thing. There's not an exclusive. There's not a studio thing. It's kind of just sad to go and see. And as well, we saw a few little indies too, like good old Cat Quest or whatever it might be called. That game is definitely be my game of the year, but it really did just kind of seem like a lot of this stuff was more on just the laid-back filler time. There wasn't anything super crazy, anything super big. A lot of people are just very meh. Like I said, the live reception for the actual event was a lot of L's, but in my mind, I'm not against it. I don't necessarily mind the idea of like kind of a filler conference, but it was around 2 years or so since the last big major event. And that's a big thing to know. Because if you only do things every now and then, you almost want to put more pressure and more attention on it. Like, we want that to happen. We want to see more games. We want to get excited for games. We want exclusives. We want some reason to go and keep my PlayStation 5. Now, not every conference can have like a God of War or, something like that with it, or Horizons. But at the same exact time, too, as well, we didn't really see too much of the first party. And that's, I think, one of the bigger things that makes us a little bit more on the sadder side. I mean, some folks are like, yeah, this is like very much booty. Ain't no sugarcoating it. Don't y'all start with all your expectations too high. It's been almost 2 years since the last one, and they show off a Gran Turismo movie trailer too as well. It's kind of funny too, because they did have a lot of people giving feedback saying like, hey man, why are we just showing off this random weird like movie trailer at the end of the day? What's the point of this? Like, what's happening? Like, people were just kind of just generally concerned on it. And as well, I think the one biggest news though is we do have the brand new handheld that was announced. This was kind of leaked, where they do have the Sony's Project Q portable devices coming later on this year. We don't even have any news in the brand new PlayStation Slim hardware or the reworked consoles too as well. But if you guys do want to check this on out with the Project Q, this is now available. So it's probably like the bigger highlight too on the hardware side. Game-wise, there was a few other cool ones as well. We even saw that weird Square Enix game that was basically just Splatoon, but in PlayStation instead. But there wasn't anything that notably out there when it comes to most games. But basically, Sony has officially confirmed it's working on a PlayStation handheld to make it easier to play your PS5 games, as well, and is also announced properly as of today, called Project Q. They said, we will launch a dedicated device that enables you to stream any game from your PS5 console using remote play over Wi-Fi. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan said during the showcase too as well. An 8-inch screen and all the buttons and features of the DualSense wireless controller. More specifically, they'll have an LCD screen running games at up to 1080p and 60 FPS over Wi-Fi. It will feature both the adapted triggers and haptic feedback of the DualSense. The Q handheld is set to launch later on this year, though. They didn't give exact date too as well, or price point, which once again led to a lot of folks being kind of concerned on the overall event, because we do have this new hardware or these games such as Spider-Man, but we never actually had the actual release dates. Same thing with like a rough timeline for a lot of these different types of games. And even for this, they announced new hardware, but they didn't even mention the price or anything else in between. And if you're someone like me, I want to know, because if it's like $500, that's going to be a hard pass for me. Although it's mainly just seeming like a controller with something right in the middle of it, I'd maybe guess like no more than $250, I would hope to God, when it comes to that. We also do have a few PlayStation VR 2 games too as well in the fray, although nothing super crazy or big that's like mind-blowing, but cool that I can see on the last. But yeah, we're seeing this type of stuff. It just looks like a really, really big PlayStation controller, and it is at least kind of cool. That's why one of the more the bigger fine points as well when it comes to the game itself. It looked cool. Like, it looked actually very, very nifty. So they said the game's supposed to be installed on the PS5 console and excludes VR games too as well. And it is kind of cool because they want to keep pushing more on the cloud gaming, which we might go touch about in a separate video throughout this week. But it really seemed like this event was mediocre. A lot of people were kind of skeptical on it. I wasn't like, I would give it like a 7 out of 10. Could have been better. Could have been worse. I'm a little bit disappointed on most things, I'll be honest with you guys. It could have been a lot more in depth, and I wish they would have thrown out a few more first-party titles, because that's what we want. I don't mind the third parties. I don't mind anything else. It's cool, but like, I want those PlayStation studios. I want the cool games. I want to feel hyped up for owning a PlayStation 5. And the fact that Sony did kind of drop the ball on that one kind of hyped this on up, and the fact that it was 2 years since the last PlayStation showcase, I think kind of left a lot of people with a little bit of a salty taste in their mouth. And I myself include on this one. I don't mind cool hardware like cloud gaming stuff. They also did announce brand new headphones too as well, but at the same time, like, I wanted something cooler. Give me that PlayStation 5 Slim rework that we've heard has been rumored around. Maybe give them more dates on future games and trailers. And as well, I want to see more gameplay. I don't mind trailers, but I also want to see see more proper gameplay to know what I'm about to get myself on into. So if you guys saw the event, let me know if you guys liked it, disliked it, and everything else in between. And as well, let me know if the vibes are good. I didn't hate it. I didn't mind it. It was okay. I'd watch it again. There was a few kind of highlights, but nothing super that big. And I do think a lot of folks may have been disappointed at the end of the day. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. We have all the Amazon links to the consoles down below. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.